Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the analysis of YOLENO TV. I hope you're well from wherever you're watching this channel. Anytime IMF is spotted in a country, it's either IMF has come to strike a deal on a loan, or IMF is coming to push a country on repayment of loans. So those are some of the reasons why IMF would be seen in a country. Now, talking about IMF, we all heard what William RUTO said during the UNGA meeting. And RUTO was critical on debt financing.
For instance, during the IMF's recent allocation of special drawing rights, 64% went to wealthy nations. Just imagine, 64%. With little need for liquidity support. They didn't need the money anyway, but they got 64%. While the poorer countries received just 2.4%. What a disconnect. I have argued, and I say it again, that the current global financial architecture punishes poor countries with high interest rates and enormous conditionalities, while rewarding rich nations with lower interest rates and softer lending rates.
You know, it talked about the unfairness that the West has over Africa. When UK, for instance, takes a loan from IMF, the repayment, the interest is always low. But when a country like Kenya takes a loan from the same, we are told that the interest that is being paid is high. So the big question is, why the imbalance? So talking about the imbalance, ladies and gentlemen, we have a story here that IMF is in town again.
La kimataifa la fedha IMF limewasili tena hapa jijini Nairobi. Serikali inatarajia ziara hii kufungua mabilioni ya fedha ili kupunguza shinikizo la kifedha.
Now the International Monetary Fund is back in Nairobi. Government hopes the mission will unlock billions of shillings.
And if you go to the Standard, there's something here that IMF in town again. Kenya's deja vu dance with the debt prescriptions begin, you know. And then the story again tells us that in what was a very American week for Kenya with UNGA at 80, Haiti Meg Wit et al., we also got to quite learn that the IMF is back in town. Did they ever leave? They have an office here, right? Last Wednesday's presser from Washington, D.C. was short and sharp. Basically, an IMF team will spend a fortnight in Nairobi between September 25th to October 9th, initiating discussions with the Kenyan authorities on a possible IMF-supported program. This is obviously serious business for us, but let's begin with a lighter look at this communication. So that is confirming that IMF is already in the country. And whenever IMF is in the country, is debt financing, a project, and or loan repayment. Now there's also accusations on IMF. You all remember some accusation from other countries who think that IMF has been funding ghost projects. Then most of the time when IMF joins a debate on taxations in a country, they always enforce punitive tax policies that end up hurting a nation. So these are some of the allegations that people have been throwing on IMF. Now, one of William RUTO's policy, in fact, one of his campaign promise was on this issue of constant taking of loan. He said he would never do that. He said Uhuru used to take loans, but with him, he doesn't think taking a loan is something that is going to help the nation, that Kenyan can actually build their own savings, you know, where they can actually be taking loans from, instead of taking money from an international organization like IMF. Now, those were some of William RUTO's statements back then. Now, let's get to what is happening now. The big question is that exactly what is happening? Is William RUTO refraining from loans? Just go below in the comment section and tell us about your take on that. But based on allegations, based on the statements coming from people like Jimmy Wanjigi, Treasury, the truth of the matter is that Kenya still takes more loan. You know, they have been taking loans, and despite the fact that people cry foul over this habit of taking loans, which end up in people's pockets, they are still continue taking loans. Now, is that the right direction for the country? I remember Traore, you know, of Burkina Faso. Sometimes they was talking about this issue of nations being reliant on loans, international loans, to finance their projects. That nations cannot finance their projects using their own money, so they end up taking huge loans from outside, you know, loans that will end up becoming a burden to the people. So at the end of the day, when these loans become a burden to the people, what happens is that the people end up spending more on commodities that they would have spent less on. And that is exactly the reason why your pockets will never have money. Why? Because of such loans that make taxations high and end up taking all your savings. So these are some of the realities on the ground, ladies and gentlemen. So Traore is one of those African leaders who do not support this. Now let's get to Museveni. Now we all remember last year, Museveni had some issue with the Biden administration over gay rights. And Museveni had signed into law punitive policies that would deal with the issue of gay rights. Now, America was not happy with that move, and that's the main reason why, when America was not happy, the World Bank denied Museveni a loan, simply because they refused to review the policy or the laws that were put in place to deal with the gay rights. Very punitive laws, you know, very harsh ones. So there was no way they were going to agree with Uganda on that. But they stood firm on that, and that's the main reason why World Bank refused to give Uganda loan. Now, IMF in town, of course, it is to take, is to probably work on a modality of Kenya getting another financing. But the big question is, this project's being financed by IMF. Who mnaziona kweli? Ama these are just things that are happening on paper, but on the ground, the vitu ambazo ziko. There is a lot of allegation on these issues because they finance, yes, but hakuna kitu ambacho kinaonekana. So just go below in the comment section and tell us whether you believe these finances from IMF was nafanya kazi. Ama that's just a way of people to enrich themselves at the expense of Kenyans. So perhaps if you're watching this video and you've not subscribed, take 1 second and subscribe, like this video. Until you catch up again, stay safe and stay blessed.